All right, let's dive right into this explainer. The retail world moves at lightning speed. And honestly, your HR team, they're literally the frontline defense for your company's profitability. Today, we're going to decode how the big retail players actually find, hire, and, most importantly, keep the right talent around. We're talking about mastering two massive pillars of HR, selection and induction.
But before we get into the how-to, we've got to talk about the stakes, right? Because they are incredibly high. So what actually happens when you hire the wrong person? Well, it's a disaster. It leads to this whole cascade of issues down the line. A rushed or careless hire totally tanks your organizational culture. Think about your existing team. They get super demotivated when they have to do the job of two people just because that bad hire inevitably ghosts you a week later. And then, you're right back to square one, footing the bill for the whole recruitment process all over again. No thanks.
So, to map this all out, our agenda today follows a candidate's journey. We'll quickly hit the high stakes of retail hiring, walk through the 8-step selection process, look at methods of candidate testing, dive into the crucial role of induction, and finally, wrap up with the retail induction procedure. Starting off with Section 1, the high stakes of retail hiring. Let's really look at what we're trying to achieve the moment we decide to bring someone onto the team.
Look, employee selection isn't just about grabbing the first available warm body to fill a shift. It's a strategic matching game. You are actively assessing an applicant's skills, their qualifications, and their experience, and putting that right up against the precise demands of the job. But here's the real kicker. It's also a defensive move. It is very much about aggressively weeding out the wrong candidates to protect your bottom line. Because like we just talked about, any mismatch directly hurts the quality of work, and that's going to cost the retailer a lot of money.
Moving on to Section 2, the 8-step selection process. Now, while this might look a little different from retailer to retailer, a lot of successful organizations rely on a very specific, deliberate sequence to filter out their candidates.
Think of this sequence exactly like a staircase. A candidate starts down at the very bottom with that initial reception, and they have to climb up step by step. They have to prove their capability at every single level, all the way up to that final hiring decision at the very top. You really can't bypass these steps. Each one acts as its own vital filter.
So, those first few steps, they're your preliminary filters, just making sure only eligible candidates keep moving forward. It kicks off with reception. Keep in mind, your greeting staff are basically brand ambassadors, so that first impression is absolutely crucial for attracting top talent. After that is the screening interview. This is usually a quick online or phone chat just to cut selection costs and check for basic deal breakers. Things like age, pay expectations, or location. If they pass that, they hit the application stage, where they fill out a brief history sheet with their academic, demographic, and work background.
Now, I'm actually going to skip the middle steps for just a second. We'll come right back to them and jump to the top of the staircase. Once a candidate has been fully evaluated, they hit the medical test. Let's be real, retail jobs demand a ton of stamina, good hearing, clear vision. This step just verifies they can physically handle the demanding work conditions. Then we do reference checks to verify their past behavior and character with previous employers. And finally, the hiring decision. This is where you issue that formal offer letter. But a quick heads up, HR has to be super careful here. Even rejecting candidates has to be handled with tact because a botched rejection can literally damage team morale or hurt the company's reputation in the local community.
Okay, let's circle back. Section 3, methods of candidate testing. The absolute most crucial part is what happens right there in the middle of that staircase, where candidates are really evaluated on their core competencies. This is where we separate the rock stars from the merely okay candidates.
That brings us to step 4, selection testing. The whole goal here is to measure individual differences scientifically, which helps eliminate a huge issue in selection, individual bias. There are 3 main tests we see all the time here. First, intelligence tests. These measure mental ability, like how fast can this person learn instructions or make snap judgments on a busy shop floor. Next are aptitude tests, which measure a candidate's potential to pick up specific skills, like running a POS system or managing inventory. And finally, personality tests. These measure traits directly against the job criteria, just to make sure they've got the right temperament for high-pressure customer service environments.
But then we hit the selection interview, and wow, is there a massive shift in perspective here. While the testing phase is highly scientific, the interview, that is an art form. And actually, this is where another huge issue can pop up, interviewer bias. The interviewer is trying to match all the hard data they've gathered with their own real-time gut-feeling observations of the candidate's personality. So it demands an incredibly objective, positive frame of mind from the interviewer, Why? Because the way they conduct that conversation is going to leave a lasting impression on the candidate. All right, moving into Section 4, the crucial role of induction. So they ace the interview, pass the medical test, and sign the offer letter. You might think, great, the work is done. But actually, the battle to retain that amazing new hire is just getting started. We're now entering the second major phase of our HR journey. At this point, we have to completely flip our mindset. We're going from strict gatekeeping to warm welcoming. As Armstrong puts it, effective induction gives a new employee the exact basic information they need to settle down quickly. And honestly, it is the difference between a productive new starter who feels confident and someone who feels totally overwhelmed and just walks out in frustration halfway through their first chaotic week.
Just put yourself in their shoes for a second. Think about a newcomer walking into a massive, bustling retail store on day one. To them, everyone is a stranger, and they are surrounded by the unknown. They don't know the layout, the people, or the unwritten rules. A good induction actively removes those fears by putting them at ease. It creates a great first impression, making them feel at home so they can start building pride in their new company. Plus, from a practical standpoint, it acts as a highly valuable source of information, clearly spelling out their job requirements and clearing up any confusion right from the start.
Which leads us perfectly to Section 5, the retail induction procedure. So how does a modern retail HR department actually execute this welcoming phase in the real world? Because it definitely can't just be a friendly handshake and a good luck out there. It needs to be a deliberate, structured process.
To get this done right, HR relies on a very tangible checklist. It starts with the big picture stuff, welcoming the recruit and walking them through the company's overall vision and mission. Then it gets super practical. They're given a specific workplace location, literally walked to their spot, and handed the company's SOP manual. All the essential admin details, things like grievance procedures, pay, benefits, and holidays, are sorted out immediately. And then after mapping out what future training and career growth might look like, they're taken on a guided tour and officially handed over to their new supervisor.
Now, I want to highlight a really effective tool in this process, the SOP, or Standard Operating Procedure Manual. Modern retail organizations have these written manuals for specific tasks, explicitly detailing what needs to be done. It's a lifesaver because the employee isn't left in the dark guessing. They don't have to wonder how to handle an angry customer's return, how to restock a specific aisle, or how to close out the register at night. These manuals make sure the new hire gets fully acclimatized to their specific duties in the least possible time. It builds confidence instantly.
So here's the bottom line. A perfectly designed, flawless selection process means absolutely zero if you don't welcome those brilliant candidates the right way. You can spend weeks filtering people through an 8-step staircase, running scientific aptitude tests, and conducting artful interviews. But if you drop the ball on day one, they're going to leave, which leaves us with a critical question to think about. Is your organization actively setting newcomers up to thrive with a structured induction, or are you just throwing strangers onto the shop floor and hoping they survive? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep refining those HR processes, and I will catch you next time.